What's up, friends, and welcome into Fantasy Pros, the Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Chris Welsh. We've got Andrew Erickson and Pat Fitzmaurice, and we've got Week 8 quarterback and tight end ranks. We got the combo episode together where we are going to be going through the top 12 quarterbacks, top 12 tight ends, some of the bigger start and sit questions. That is what we are breaking down. As I have mentioned to you guys, I am due for being one of the best quarterback rankers this week because I only do one position good each week, and we have trickled down. So just be prepared for my quarterback greatness that's about to bestow upon you, Fitzy. Haven't you been amazing at quarterback rankings this week or this year?
It's been one of the better positions. I would stop short of amazing.
The one thing that is nice about this position, these two positions, Erickson, is dealing with the bipocalypse. Obviously, because we don't start as many, the punch isn't as dramatic with quarterbacks. There have been a lot of like streamy type of quarterbacks. Obviously, like Jackson Dart last week was in a bad matchup and performed. There's just a lot of options when you're looking at quarterbacks, and then as well as tight ends. We had a tight end this week kind of jump to near the tippy top of being waiver relevant in Oronde Gadsden. So these positions, these ranks are not as affected by the massive amount of bye weeks this week, Erickson.
Yeah. For the most part, I think that you should be able to find yourself in a decent quarterback or tight end situation where you're not necessarily scrambling, but it does open the door for some interesting pieces, especially if you were relying on a quarterback that got injured. There are a lot of backup quarterbacks. So especially in like super flex leagues this week, there's a lot of people. I know that I just flipped Andy Dalton for a future 4th round rookie pick in one of my dynasty leagues in super flex because people are like, oh, my quarterbacks are hurt. I had Justin Fields, no longer have him. Somebody sent me a quarterback. So made the trade, flipped Dalton, and got a 4th rounder for next year.
Yeah, there were some more super flex depth relevant things that happened going into this week. Like Andy Dalton, like you just mentioned, he becomes more relevant in like a 2 quarterback super flex situation. Tyrod Taylor has been thrust into it. None of those guys jumping into the relevance of like what we're going to talk about, but there is some super flex relevancy there. If you guys want to follow along, fantasypros.com/rankings. That is where way more than 12 quarterbacks and tight ends are ranked. All week long, the adjustments are going to keep seeing updates and everything like that. You can even click on each player and you can click in and see how rankers individually have them. Who has them at the absolute highest? Who has them at the lowest? You can go and click and see where Erickson and Fitzy have got those guys. So we are going to be talking about the top 12 quarterbacks and tight ends. But first, it is giveaway time, as we like to do some giveaways. This is your chance to win the crown jewel of any fantasy football league, the Perpetual Fantasy Football Trophy, courtesy of our friends over at Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy football hardware. Baby, this is your shot. This gorgeous black trophy comes with a perpetual base so you can engrave your league champion year after year. It's not just a prize, it's a legacy piece. To enter, all you've got to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now and drop a comment below on any of our videos. That's it. We'll be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so be sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss your chance to claim this awesome prize. Let's go look at the top 12 quarterback ranks. Let's look at the big board. Coming in at number 1, we've got Patrick Mahomes against the Washington Commanders. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, and Bo Nix. That's your top 6. Welcome back, Lamar Jackson. Drake May, Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones, Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, and Jordan Love. Those are your top 12. Let's look at Bo Nix here. Bo Nix is quarterback 6 on ECR. Why is he quarterback 6? Dallas Cowboys. That's usually the easiest answer. Wherever the Cowboys are playing, you're going to see a top 6 to 8 quarterback. But you guys are both a little bit lower on him. This isn't anything dramatic. Fitzy, you've got him at 8. Erickson, you've got him at 7. Fitz, let's start with you. You're a tiny bit lower. You're 2 spots lower than ECR. This is still like a very nice, aggressive, especially for Bo Nix rank. But is there extra optimism, or is there maybe a little bit of pessimism against this Dallas defense that, like, does Bo Nix cap himself from being a monster against one of the worst defenses?
Yeah, QB 8 for Bo Nix absolutely qualifies as optimism, at least for me. The matchup does look great. Dallas is giving up a league high 25.5 fantasy points per game and 276.9 passing yards per game to quarterbacks. I'm just not crazy about the player. Bo Nix is averaging 6.1 yards per pass attempt this year, 5.8 yards per attempt over his last 3 games. He's a passer rating lower than Spencer Rattler, Carson Wentz, Kyler Murray this year. Bo Nix has not been good. So, I made a joke on our, I think, wide receiver ranking show about this matchup. It's not going to turn Bo Nix into John Elway. Hopefully you can get, I don't know, maybe one of those good late career Jake Plummer seasons or games out of Bo Nix this week against the Cowboys. I'm not excited about it. I just cannot get myself to where ECR is top 6, but QB8, yeah, you can start him this week and feel okay about it.
Erickson, you had Troy Franklin pretty high in the wide receiver ranks episode. Are you excited about Bo Nix? Sometimes we do get cute, like we're like, hey, Justin Fields against the Panthers. Like we'll get some of those. Are we being set up that we're like the matchup is so good and then all that's going to happen is it's going to be Dobbins and Harvey for like 40 carries and he'll throw 15 times? Or do you think this is a really justified, exciting spot for Bo Nix to sling the ball?
I mean, it should be, right? The matchup is there for the taking. It's just a matter of which Bo shows up. The guy that played the first 3 quarters against the Giants or the guy that played in the fourth quarter and scored 40 fantasy points in the fourth quarter alone. So I think we're always shooting for upside. And when you face the Dallas Cowboys defense, you have the chance to be the QB1 on the week. So it would be crazy to see Bo Nix finish back-to-back weeks as QB1 overall, but I think it's within the range of outcomes just based on the matchup. And I agree with Fitz that Bo Nix has definitely not played up to expectations based on what he did as a rookie. And the only reason I can't rank him higher is because I can't rank him ahead of Drake May. It's not happening. Like, Drake May is better. I don't care who Drake May is playing. Like, I'm always going to rank Drake May ahead of Bo Nix. So that's why I'm just one spot lower than ECR.
In the same game, Dak Prescott, very relevant. This is kind of a flippy situation. He's ECR 8, so he is lower than Bo Nix. Fitz is higher than consensus and has Dak Prescott above Bo Nix. On the other end, Erickson, you have Bo Nix above Dak Prescott, who you have lower at ECR 11. So if you were able to track what I was doing here, Fitz slightly higher, Erickson lower, Bo Nix and Dak are flipped for you guys. Erickson, let's start with you on Dak Prescott. This is a tough matchup against Denver, but you are starting Bo Nix over Dak Prescott.
Yeah, and I kind of hate myself that I have to do this, but I'm just following the matchup. Obviously, facing the Dallas defense is much easier than facing the Broncos defense, especially on the road. And the thing with Dak is I just have to consider that he just isn't a mobile quarterback. Like, he doesn't add value with his legs, and that does hurt his bottom line. And that's just why I have to rank a rushing quarterback that has a much better matchup just a couple spots ahead of Dak Prescott. And when you look at the Denver Broncos defense this year, they've only allowed 2 quarterbacks that they've faced to go over 20-plus fantasy points. What do both those quarterbacks have in common? They both scored rushing touchdowns. So that's the only reason why I'm just a little bit lower. I also think that we could see a lot of Javonte Williams in this game because I think that Javonte's facing his old team, the Denver Broncos, the team that gave up on him, that even though they drafted him. And the way that Schottenheimer talks about Javonte, I guarantee they're going to want to find him and get in the end zone. So if they score rushing touchdowns instead of passing touchdowns with Dak Prescott, well, that's going to hurt his production from a fantasy football perspective. Again, I'm really splitting hairs here. Again, he's still a QB1 for me. You're still starting him if you have him. But if I have to make the argument of why I'm a little bit lower on Dak, just besides the fact that they're playing at Denver, those are the reasons why.
Fitz, you're on the other end. You're starting Dak over Bo Nix this week. So talk to us about Dak.
And, well, I think the Dak Prescott, Bo Nix comparison sort of shines a light on quarterback ranking philosophy. Like, Erickson is clearly weighing the matchup much more heavily than I am. The Denver pass defense is really tough, and the Dallas pass defense is Swiss cheese. So I get it. And he might be right, because when we rank defenses every week, like, we're looking as much at the caliber of the opposing quarterback as we are at the defense itself, if not more. Which is why I don't have the Broncos ranked, all that much above like the Cincinnati Bengals this week, because they get the Jets and Tyrod Taylor, and I guess I do have the Broncos pretty well ahead of them, so never mind. But it's the talent gap between Dak Prescott and Bo Nix, which I think is vast. Like, that that drop off from Dak to Bo Nix is like Grand Canyon, Marianas Trench type. Like, I think Dak is that much better than Bo Nix is. Dak has thrown 3 or more touchdown passes in 4 straight games. He has this amazing trio of pass-catching weapons with CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and yes, Jake Ferguson to help him navigate a difficult matchup. And because the Dallas defense is so bad, it is thrusting Dak into these OK Corral game scripts every week. He's averaged 41.5 pass attempts over his last 4 games. So, yeah, give me Dak over Bo Nix this week.
Final quarterback we're going to talk about, he is number 12, Jordan Love. And this is another you guys are flipped situation. Fitz, you do not have him as a QB1 this week. Erickson has him inside the top 10 going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The star rating we give it is kind of neutral, but like I think in general, this is actually a pretty decent matchup. But Fitz, you are a little bit negative. You're self-hating on your Packers. What's got you down on Jordan Love?
Yeah, and maybe I should be. Erickson mentioned this in one of our other ranking shows about how, you know, the Jordan Love, it's not exactly a revenge game narrative for Jordan Love, but there's obviously incentive here going against his former teammate and a guy who kind of helped mentor him when he was a young backup, Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. But I can't get past the Packers being the 4th run heaviest team in the league. They have a really good defense, so Jordan Love isn't going to play in a lot of shootouts. And Packers-Cowboys was really the only true shootout that Love has been in this year. He threw 43 passes in that game. In every other Packers game this season, Love has had 31 or fewer pass attempts. And Jordan Love has thrown for fewer than 200 yards in 3 of his 6 starts, half his games this year. Jordan Love has thrown multiple TD passes in 1 of his last 4 starts. The Packers just don't want to have to play in shootouts, and I don't know if they'll have to in Pittsburgh this week.
Erickson, you've got him as a top 10. So again, this is the opposite end. You have a very good comfort level. You're starting him over Dak Prescott this week.
Yeah, I don't feel good about that, though. That might be something that I tweak. And because Fitz brings up a lot of big points about, I know that both offenses are going to score. It's just a matter of, well, how do they actually score their points? And throughout the 7 weeks of the season, it's been, let's feed the ball to Josh Jacobs. He's going to get all the touchdowns. And on the Dallas side, it's been Dak Prescott through the air. But in this one particular matchup, this one sample size, I guess I'm kind of buckling up, driving down Narrative Street. Let's get Jordan Love some touchdowns against Aaron Rodgers, right? So, and the Steelers' defense is terrible. Like TJ washed is what we're looking at here.
Oof.
Like the Steelers can't generate a pass rush anymore. Like the pressure is non-existent. They can't generate pressure, and they can't stop the quick short passes. And although Love has kind of been underwhelming in the fantasy box score besides that game against Dallas, he's still been really efficient this year. You know, Green Bay has the 3rd most efficient passing offense this season. The Steelers are 2nd in the NFL in passing yards per game allowed. I just can't get out of my mind Joe Flacco destroying this defense. So I guess I'm just kind of leaning into that a little bit more, and that maybe they open it up for Jordan Love with some of these receivers, especially in the red zone, getting Romeo Doubs touchdowns. I like Matthew Golden this week. So I think for me, this is Jordan Love's statement game. Be like, hey, I'm the Packers quarterback now. I'm going to bring this team back to the Super Bowl. It's not going to be Aaron Rodgers anymore. So that's why I'm buying into Jordan Love, although I do think it is razor close with Dak Prescott, who has definitely been the better quarterback this year.
All right, quarterbacks in the books. Let's go over to the tight ends. Let's look at the big board here. Coming in at number 1 this week, it is Tyler Warren, followed by Tucker Kraft, Jake Ferguson, George Kittle, Dallas Goedert, and Dalton Kincaid. That's your top half. The bottom half is Travis Kelce, Oronde Gadsden, Mason Taylor, Harold Fannin, Kyle Pitts, and Zach Ertz. Dalton Kincaid, coming off the bye, tight end 6. Fitz, you've got him at 5. Erickson, you've got him at 7. Do some tight end quick hitters. What do you think about Fitzy? What do you think about Dalton Kincaid? You are the high ranker here.
Yeah, Kincaid has been ultra efficient. Like the targets haven't always been there for him. He hasn't seen more than 6 targets in any game this year, although he's had 6 targets in 3 of the 5 he's played. But he's averaging 12 yards per target, and Dalton Kincaid has scored 3 touchdowns on 20 catches. So we know he's not going to average 12 yards per target all season, but it's reasonable to think that Dalton Kincaid will continue to be a high efficiency pass catcher because of who his quarterback is, Josh Allen. So I don't love that he's not a high volume guy, but the tight end, once you get beyond the sure things at tight end, the top 5 or so, like I've got Kincaid at the top of that next tier.
Erickson, is it the matchup you think that makes Kincaid thrusts him into maybe not the the elite tier or anything like that, but justifies him being this high? Is it simply matchup based because he's not a volume guy?
I think so. The Panthers, when you look at their defense, they are inside the top 8 or top 10 against every position except for tight end, where they're bottom 5. So this defense has kind of been underrated all year long, and Fitz tried telling me about it multiple weeks ago about the running backs, and I said, nah, Javonte's going to smash, and then he was terrible. And then I made sure Breece Hall was ranked lower than ECR last week because he was facing the Panthers. So I've been trying to catch up with this Panthers defense, and the matchup that's favorable is for the tight end. So Kincaid, assuming that he's healthy coming out of their bye week, yes, it's frustrating because he's always in a timeshare with Dawson Knox, but when Kincaid's on the field running routes, Josh Allen is frequently looking for him. He's one of the highest target rates per route run among tight ends. The matchup is obviously excellent, and when Josh Allen's your quarterback, you have a ton of touchdown upside. So although it seems like it's kind of unsustainable how many touchdowns he's scoring based on the targets, I mean, when Josh Allen is slinging the ball and he's not throwing it to Keon Coleman or Khalil Shakir, then Kincaid's going to be in a good spot.
Oronde Gadsden, his workload and his snaps and everything, it's been trending in the right direction. And then we have this absolutely explosive game. People want to pick him up. So the question is going to be, yes, this is a pass-heavy offense, but was that a complete one-off? Which, by the way, did completely affect Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson was not involved whatsoever in that, and Gadsden completely went off. Do we buy it or do we not? Either way, he's getting more involved, and he comes in as the 8th tight end in ECR this week, but both of you not quite into it. You do not have him as a starting tight end this week. Erickson at 14, Fitz at 13. Erickson, let's start with you. You're the lowest. You don't seem to be a big buy-in of what Gadsden did last week is even remotely repeatable.
I'm so glad you brought up another Chargers player here because we didn't talk about the Chargers receivers, but now we're going to talk about the Chargers receivers with Gadsden as part of that conversation because there are so many options in this passing attack that we're trying to parse through because there's so many moving pieces. And I just can't help but feel someone's going to get left out every single week. And is it Gadsden this week when it comes to the Vikings defense? They haven't allowed one tight end to go over 60 receiving yards against them. And before this blow-up game where he went for over 160 yards, he had the same amount of catches the week before, 7 for 68, but he didn't score. And as a result, he was the tight end 17 on the week. So those are my concerns. Justin Herbert's not going to throw 55 times on Thursday night against the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings have faced the second fewest passing attempts per game this season. Entering last week, Justin Herbert was averaging 36 pass attempts per game. So all these Chargers players are probably being severely overinflated when it comes to all the targets and all the volume they saw last week. It's probably not going to be the case. So I guess I'm just kind of hedging my bets a little bit here. I do think that he is, and maybe I need to move him up to tight end 12. I guess it's just him versus some of the other guys on the board that I feel a little bit better about. I know that I definitely have him above Ertz, but I think I like Kyle Pitts' matchup a little bit more against the Miami Dolphins. Fannin with David Njoku out, he feels really secure with the amount of targets he's going to see in his offense. I mean, am I really going to go back to Mason Taylor? The Bengals are just so bad against tight ends. I think I am. So those are it's just some of the other guys. I think I'm leaning towards a little bit more than Gadsden. But I do think that he is, I know I say that he's a starter territory, but I don't have him as a starting tight end. So Fitz, what do you think?
Yeah, let's hear it, Fitzy.
I mean, Erickson summarized it pretty well. Like the ECR with Gadsden, he's what you said, TE8 Welsh. I mean, that does, it feels like a dog chasing a car with that ECR with Gadsden. But then again, I don't know, maybe we're too low on him. Like I do think he deserves to be lumped in with that big group we have in low end tight end 1, high end tight end 2 range. And Erickson mentioned a lot of the guys like, I'm falling for Mason Taylor again with the great matchup against the Bengals. I'm falling for Kyle Pitts again. I also have those guys ranked ahead of Gadsden. And I'm kind of shocked that Erickson has me outflanked on Gadsden, ranking him lower than I do. So he's even got some guys ranked ahead of Gadsden that I don't. So, but look, Gadsden, 14 catches for 232 yards and a touchdown the last 2 weeks. He's the tight end 2 in fantasy, behind only Trey McBride over that span. But here's the thing. Quentin Johnston missed the first of those 2 games. Second of those 2 games, as Erickson said, Justin Herbert had to throw 55 passes with the Chargers in trail mode. And he threw 38 passes in the first of those 2 games. So 93 pass attempts over the last 2 games for the Chargers. They have been way more pass heavy this year, but like that's crazy. 93 pass attempts, 2 games. Gadsden has totally benefited from that pass happy environment and probably benefited from QJ being out in week 7. On the other hand, Gadsden might be really good. There was a nice drumbeat of positive reporting about Gadsden in training camp. Jim Harbaugh seems to like him, and he does seem to have left the Chargers' other tight ends in the dust. So I'm excited about him for Dynasty. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to trust him in my starting lineup in the leagues where I have him.
Well, one guy you do seem to be, both of you seem to have the trust in Gadsden over is Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is back off of a bye. He's ECR tight in 14. You guys both have Gadsden higher. Fitz, you have him at 14. Erickson, you got Andrews down at 17. So let's just do a quick hitter. The question would be like, hey, do you believe in Mark Andrews coming back off the bye? The answer seems to kind of be no, Fitz.
Yeah, so if Lamar is playing, I can't rank Mark Andrews any lower than as a high-end tight end 2. And we know it's just talk about a wide range of outcomes, because Andrews could have 2 touchdown catches or he could have a 0. Like, it's just all over the place. You're really leaning on the touchdown productivity with him. I have Ertz. I have Andrews 1 spot ahead of Ertz, and the Ertz ranking is really kind of it's just floating right now because it depends on whether Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin are playing. And as of now, I have Deebo projected to be out and McLaurin projected to play, but those are just kind of guesses on my part. And Ertz didn't really do much during Marcus Mariota's earlier stint as the starter in those 2 games. I just pulled this up. Let's see. It was 3 catches for 38 yards on 3 targets and 2 catches for 21 yards on 4 targets. So not real exciting.
Erickson, what do you think? You got Andrews even, lower. The trust seems to be gone. What's your take?
Want no part of Mark Andrews, especially if there is no Lamar Jackson. I think that something worth noting is Isaiah Likely outsnapped him the last time that the guys were on the field together back in week 6. Isaiah Likely's more now, again, it's now multiple weeks that he's removed from that injury that was set his season back a little bit, that he got hurt in the offseason. He should be full go coming out of the bye week. And we were already concerned about Isaiah Likely taking over this tight end 1 role before Isaiah Likely got injured. And Andrews had the runway. You know, he had a couple, I think he only really had 1 game where he was productive, but he's touchdown or bust. So given that, I think that the Ravens really just want to establish it with Derrick Henry and just feed him against the Chicago Bears. I don't think that this is a good matchup for Mark Andrews. I think that he has a scary low floor, and the ceiling is great. He puts up the Mike Evans 1-for-1 and 1 touchdown stat line.
Well, we had a little joke off air where we're like, that's so fantasy football. Like the so fantasy football thing is going to be our guy. We were joking about TreVeyon Henderson going off. It'll also be Mark Andrews having like 9 catches for 3 touchdowns. That'll be the so thing, but it'll be on a lot of benches, unfortunately. That's going to do it. Those are your quarterback and tight end ranks. If you guys want to check it out throughout the week, go to fantasypros.com/rankings. You can see what ECR is telling you and how they are moving as people keep submitting their ranks. Obviously, over on Fantasy Pros, lots of other tools. You're wondering about injuries, the Are They Playing tool. Get in with my playbook, sync your leagues, get all the information from trades, lineup suggestions, and even Are They Playing. Get it all at my playbook. Do that today. That is it for Pat Fitzmaurice and Andrew Erickson. I'm Chris Welsh. Good luck in Week 8, and we'll talk to you next time right here on Fantasy Pros.
Oof.